Oh, I'm so lonely. I'm so powerless. What can I do? Oh, do you need help with this? Well, look no further. I got the remedy for you. And my name is Matt Diazable. What's up, everyone? It's your boy. I'm coming at you with some new music reviews. Thank you for coming on by. Today, I'm checking out the latest release from the band called Deafheaven with their latest album called Lonely People with Power. I'm sure you already know this band, but if you don't know anything about this band, Deafheaven is a black shoegaze. They're a mix of black metal and shoegaze, so Blackgaze, some people would call it. And they have been a band since about 2010, are based out of San Francisco, California. And a lot of this information, I'm just now, learning about it because Deafheaven has been a band that I've always known about for a while, but I never really dug deep into them because a lot of my friends who are into them, I guess before me doing reviews, are into more music that I wouldn't say I'm too into, but I'm just not as fond as. But I'm growing to like more progressive, more introverted and very, I guess not introverted, but interesting styles of metal and music. So I'm really growing my, I guess you could say, my capacity for music, trying to explain it. But yeah, this is their latest album, and I didn't realize that they were only been around since 2010. I thought they were a much older band, but pretty stoked to explain and talk about this album because this is my first time ever listening to them, and I'm hoping to, get this right when I talk about them. And this latest record from Deafheaven, Lonely People with Power, I gotta say, it's an experience that definitely caught me off guard in both good and complicated ways. I've always known about this band's reputation, being like labeled as a black metal meets shoegaze, kind of a post-metal band, none of which I'm really familiar with. What I didn't expect about this album is how emotional and how cinematic this album would feel, even though it is just really like screaming at my face. The album opens up with a very slowly crawling tune to it that sets the tone for the whole album. And from there, the band just throws you into this world that is just massive in scale because it's full of fast and blazing drums, dense guitars, and vocals that sound more like a tortured spirit than, a frontman or anything human at that. Tracks like Magnolia and Doberman are pretty obvious that, they have some black metal influences here. But it's balanced in a way that with the, clean production and dynamic shifts in their sound make it feel like it's very accessible than, what I was anticipating. The screams are intense, but never really overwhelming. They blend in really nicely with all the instrumentation here, and it's acting more like, a layer of emotion than a spotlight than anything. It doesn't really take away from the music. And one thing that really stood out to me about this album is just how sad it feels. There's a sense of like grief that is just woven into everything on this record. From the crushing weight of the riffs to the very sorrowful and acoustic moments on the song Amiste. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Even when the music kind of picks up and gets a little bit more aggressive, like on the song Revelator. Sorry if I mispronounced that. There's like a heaviness that just goes beyond distortion. There's something more to this. It feels, like personal, like you're watching someone just slowly fall apart in slow motion. And it's like a weird, beautiful thing to watch, but not watch at the same time. The vocals, whether they are screamed or softly spoken, carry so much emotional weight, even if I couldn't, make out the words sometimes. The band also experiments with, ambient textures and electronic elements. The song The Garden Route really took me by surprise with how synth heavy and trance-like pulse it has. It's like if like a 90s trance electronic track wandered into like a black metal album, and weirdly enough, it works. And while I would say I wasn't really sold on the interludes, Incidental 2 and 3 to be, specific, but I understand their purpose in the overall scope of the album. They create this tension and atmosphere on this record, but at times it felt like more like they were distractions more than anything like necessary transitions from songs. And the one thing I really appreciate about this album and this band is, the sense of scale you feel on here. Songs like Winona and The Marvelous Orange Tree just don't really play, they build upon themselves. Deafheaven clearly knows how to pace a song and layering all the elements nicely as they gradually build and then explode or collapse on each other. You know, that sense of scale I was talking about, they do a really good job of it as they build things up. Even, you know, when they're being very, very chaotic, you can still feel like there's a lot of intention behind the noise. And I gotta say, the drumming especially lives up to that because it's always changing. It's always pushing the song forward. It never feels like it's just filling up space or just being a placeholder. It's really doing its job of, you know, being very intentful. That being said, the album can be a bit exhausting because several tracks are a bit long and emotionally intense. And sometimes the band's like signature sound starts to like blur together a bit. Because there were some moments on here that I felt like, you know, like on the later part of the record, I felt like I had already heard the ideas before on an earlier part of the album. Like I said, it blurs a little bit. While, you know, the highs on this record are really high, the sense of repetition and, you know, the length of things kind of dulls the overall impact of these high moments. Still, I would say this album from Deafheaven, Lonely People with Power, definitely made a lasting impression on me. It's ambitious, it's emotional, and sometimes it's overwhelming, but in a way, it just feels really, really honest, which, you know, trumps a lot of things. You can really feel them putting themselves into this record. Deafheaven aren't just, you know, making a metal record here. It feels like they're painting something that's more abstract and raw. Like I said, they're pouring themselves into this. And while, you know, the full picture isn't always, you know, perfectly in focus, it's still a very powerful feel and message being brought on this record. Simply a flawed but, you know, moving release from a band that clearly has a vision. Black, beautiful, and just bold. Even when, you know, they stumble a bit, Deafheaven overall makes you feel something real when you listen to this music. So I would give this latest album from Deafheaven, Lonely People with Power, a good and solid 7.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me your favorite Deafheaven song, your favorite song off this album, some other bands that are similar or in this space that I should check out. And until next time, guys, see you in the pit.